I'm so excited for this conversation. Welcome, Rochelle. I'm so happy to have you on the Balanced Lady Boss Show. Long overdue.
Hi, Stacey. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm excited as well.
Awesome. Well, my audience is just busting at the seams to learn more about not just your journey as a happiness coach and expert, but really to understand how you operate in the space of boardroom bedroom bliss. So, as you know, our show focuses on three pillars of life. We focus on boardroom, which is all about your workspace, bedroom, which is all about your intimate relationships, and then bliss, which is all about lifestyle, your health, your wellness, and the things and experiences that make you happy or bring you joy, which, of course, since you're an expert at that, we're supposed to be hearing all the little hacks and tricks that you've been doing to make sure that each of those areas is secure. So let's start off, of course, in the boardroom space and maybe talk with us a little bit about your career journey and how you are balancing the space of amazing attorney and also this happiness coach and expert that has, you're so Googleable. You have like 5 pages on Google before anything else shows
Oh,
up.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll say from I was young, I always knew I wanted to be an attorney. There was never a memory moment in my life where somebody asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? It was an attorney. And then I graduated from college a semester early, and my aunt was a partner to a big law firm. I ended up working at her firm for that semester, for that half semester. And while I was there, I was clear that big law was not for me because I noticed that the people there were not necessarily very happy. They were working a lot of hours. They didn't have a lot of work-life balance. So that was my first foray into, okay, what do I want my career to look like? Got to law school and I was just like, okay, this is just not it. I love to learn, love to learn. And I realized I didn't necessarily want to practice law, but I was 21 years old and didn't know anything. I didn't know what else I could do at that point. But I always promised myself, okay, I'm going to practice 10 years and then figure it out. So like many people, you have this goal, you have this dream of what your life should look like. And then life happens, right? So I was practicing law and I'll be fair and I'll be honest. I've always had a side hustle. So a couple of attorneys and I, when we graduated, we had a company called Social Esquire. It was an event marketing company in Miami. We had yacht parties, dinner parties, parties for young professionals to network and engage in a very social atmosphere. Business is better done around relationships. So I was practicing, I've been practicing since 2005. And I remember like around 2016, 2017, I really just was like pretty much burnt out. Social Esquire, my two partners, they had children. We all were starting to go in different directions. And at that time, I was like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And not knowing that what's next would happen when my whole life pretty much collapsed around me. So I would say that throughout, I practiced family law and then now healthcare law. And the journey was always, I enjoy law because I have other pursuits and I have other interests, right? And so I like to call myself the queen of pivoting, the queen of reinvention, because I just don't believe in being stuck, not in a time where we have so many options. And, yeah. And so what happens is that so many of us are just, and I know it because as an attorney, it's easy to just be confined to that label. I am a lawyer, I'm an attorney. It feels good, it sounds great, but I wasn't fulfilled, right? And so I decided that I was going on this search, this quest to really find my purpose. And that's how I ended up falling into this happiness coaching. To make a long story short, went through a breakup. People were like, well, your outlook on this breakup is refreshing. Maybe you should write a book. I was like, okay, aha moment. Maybe I should write a book. Started studying about happiness, published a book. The book took on a life of its own. People started inviting me to podcasts to speak. And here we are. 4 years later, I have the book, I have the coaching career. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey. One where I realized that it took a lot of bravery, a lot of courage, overcoming fears and what people expect you should be doing. And I just decided that I didn't care what people expected of me. I was going to do what made me feel good and what made me feel proud of myself and what made me ultimately feel happy.
That's really interesting. Well, first of all, I got to say, we got to plan a party, girl, because I'm like, I actually had a company called Social Butterfly. When I
No.
used to, yes, when I was living in Atlanta, I had a company called Social Butterfly. It was really more around because I was a mom very early. I had my first child at 23. And it
Okay.
was really more around doing the baby showers and the wedding parties. And like I mean, I was just always the person planning them. And so I started a little company here in
Wow.
Atlanta called Social Butterfly. Yeah. And then it went away because I didn't have partners the way that you're supposed to do it. I didn't have, persons working with me. But girl, we got to plan something. We got to think about that.
You can,
We got
absolutely. Isn't
a
it
lot of
crazy
fun.
how each season of your life leads and fuels the big
Different
picture?
things.
Because
Yes,
yeah, being
yes,
a social esquire, that whole event marketing has really helped me in planning events for myself, So it
yeah.
really there are no wasted seasons.
No, that's excellent. I love that. I did want to come back around to where you talked about doing that internship and realizing, boy, this is not for me. And still following up on the commitment that you made to yourself, because
Mhm.
I think one of the things that oftentimes the millennial space struggles with is keeping that commitment to ourselves, keeping our word to ourselves. How did that make a difference in your life overall, making that initial commitment to yourself of, you know what, I always promised myself I was going to do 10 years at this, so even though it doesn't necessarily feel like a fit right now, I'm going to commit to what I originally said I was going to do. How has that served you beyond?
Okay. So for one, I realized that, getting through law school and passing the bar is not an easy feat, right? But what I
Yes.
will say is that it taught me that you can do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do.
Oh, that's
And
good.
so
That's
you
good.
do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. And so it was a means to an end. I started off with the goal in sight. I knew I just needed to get to May 15, 2005. Every day I'd show up at class, I was just like, okay, Ro, May 15th, 2005. You just need to get to that point. And so I also knew that having a law degree would be very, very valuable. And at that time, as 21, I really didn't know what else I could do. That was before we're all connected on social media in this way where you are seeing so many different careers, right?
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
yes, we had Facebook at the time, but not Instagram, where you are seeing day to day people just doing things around the
Yes.
clock that can
Yes.
inspire you. And so my legal career, I won't lie, it has opened so many doors for me. Once I say I'm a happiness coach, happiness expert, people are like, okay, great. But I'm an attorney. It's like, oh, wow,
Oh,
let's hear more. Right? Because there's a certain reverence and respect and regard for lawyers. At the end of the day,
yes.
people believe that we're smart, even though that may not be so true. But they believe that we have certain skill sets that are transferable,
Yes.
in the grand scheme of life. So what I would say to a millennial right now, I am at the upper edge of being a millennial, right? Be honest and be truthful to yourself. And I don't believe in doing things that you don't necessarily, if you don't really feel good about that as your calling, explore. I said it. I did a lot of side hustles, and those are the things that help me narrow down my focus. So, yes, focus, commit to the ultimate goal, but do not be afraid to learn, live outside the box, and to pivot. And to also seek mentors in areas that are of interest to you, because it's very easy to look on something else and think it's shiny and that you would
Right.
love it. Then you
Oh,
start
yes.
doing it and you're like, well, I hate that too. So just
Yes.
be very patient with yourself on the journey and be very, very honest about what it is that fuels your flame.
No, that's good. And I also like the point about you do what you have to until you can't do what you want.
Yes.
Because even as you're refining, you're doing that exploration. Exploring is also a way of, I have to do this exploration in order to get to figuring out what I want to do. So I
Yeah.
think that's really, really valuable advice. Now,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about how your current balance between lawyering and happiness coach serves your lifestyle. And we're going to kind of dive into bliss a little bit more, but how does
Mhm.
that, this way that you're doing the boardroom, how does it serve your lifestyle?
So, to be totally candid, I am very, very intentional about how I spend all my time, right?
Mm.
And so I wake up with a renewed sense of purpose every single day now that I am operating in my true calling, which is to be a happiness coach, a happiness expert, spreading joy, spreading rural cheer, as I call it. And so I know the difference between now doing work because I just have to do it, which is what law was. It pays the bills. I'm good at it. And now doing work that I'm actually really passionate about. And so I believe I found my sweet spot because the law thing keeps that brain going, the analytical skills. And there is some elements of it that I enjoy. I love the research. But then in the same breath, the happiness stuff, that's what literally comes organically to me. It doesn't feel like work, right? But they're bolstering each other. And so I had to get very clear about the amount of time I was spending on each. The days when I was trying to do both at the same time, it kind of made me feel overwhelmed. So I'm very clear, like if I'm dedicating these 3 hours to legal stuff, then I'm dedicating another 3 hours to happiness stuff. And that may happen on different days, but it really is being very clear about what matters in the moment. I am a big advocate of things to do lists. Before I came on here today, I wrote it down. What's my intention? What am I trying to accomplish today? What am I trying to accomplish this week? And then my actions are in alignment with those things. Because it's easy to just be running around like a chicken with like right? Yes. Doing and accommodating other people's needs and neglecting mine. So now I'm very mindful of, okay, how does this affect the bottom line? How is this making me better, enhancing my goals, edifying my dreams? And so I'm very, very clear on that. And so I show up to spaces with, okay, how am I going to make this space better? And how am I going to be better for having had this experience? Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I love the point about the blocking, the time blocking, because that's something that I'm constantly reworking. You know, every season of my life, like I'm entering a new season now with my company. And so I'm shifting how I'm blocking my time, where I'm prioritizing my company and my actual corporate work, which would be equivalent to your attorney work, is now being lessened in my calendar, right? And it feels so good to do that. Can I tell you?
Yes.
So I do find, however, that it's actually really important, because the way that your brain works, you can't be like doing a bunch of meetings in one thing and then just hop over to a bunch of meetings in another thing. It makes so much more sense to really time block, to help your brain, just to help your brain and your energy and how you show up in any of the different areas, So thanks for that. That was very helpful. Okay, so now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to move into the bedroom space. Now, everybody always gets excited about bedrooms.
I love that. This is a topic. This is amazing. Yeah.
Yes. Everybody always gets excited, which is great, because I don't think we talk about it enough, which is so interesting because it's such a critical part of our lives, right?
Yes.
And you and I, Ro, always have these conversations off record, right? Just about that love space. And I actually really enjoy your story, and I enjoy telling your story about the fact that it was through a breakup that you birthed this happiness, amazing happiness kingdom that you reside over. Yes, and it is always through the biggest obstacles and challenges that we are able to really find our purpose and step fully into our passion, if we actually allow God to give us that guidance, right?
Yes.
And I think you really did that. I want you to go ahead and just share with the community, that aspect of your journey.
Yeah. So I briefly touched on it earlier. I was in a relationship for 5 years, and I really thought I was going to marry this person. That, a lot of my goals and my dreams were actually tied to his goals and dreams, to the point where I think towards the end, I kind of started neglecting my goals and dreams in support of his, right? And so long story short, I moved in, and after 6 months, I realized, okay, we are not equally on things that really matter, right? And so I was 35 years old. I remember having this overwhelming fear of, okay, if I move on now, what's going to happen? Will I be able to have children? You hear about the ticking biological clock. And I was just like, okay, I want to be a mom, and now I'm leaving this relationship. I've invested 5 years. Now what? And I realized that, after about 2 months of that deliberation, I realized I had to be very honest with myself. I was unhappy, and I do not believe in wallowing in self-pity or wallowing in any kind of discomfort for long periods, right? Not when there are options to be had. And so I literally wrote a pros and cons of this. I was like, the pros are I move on, I may meet the love of my life, I may not. The cons are, okay, I may not have kids. And I started thinking about it. Okay, the cons list really overwhelmed me with the not having kids. So I started thinking of options, of ways that I could preserve my options to motherhood. And so once I saw it clear in black and white, I chose myself, I chose my happiness, and the return on investment from making that brave decision have been a millionfold. I can't tell you how, I think back to those 2 months where I just wake up like, how did I get here? Who is this girl? Why am I operating in fear? Like, this is crazy. And now I wake up and I'm like, whoa, I'm so happy I took the chance on myself. And so, to be honest, right now, I'm still single, I'm dating, but I have a clarity of vision and purpose of the kind of relationship that I want, which I don't think I necessarily had it at 35. Before. Yeah. I believe had I gotten married anytime sooner, it probably would have ended in a divorce, unfortunately. Yeah. But I just know myself so much better. I know what I need in a partner. Not necessarily what I want, but what I need to complement my life's purpose, to complement me, the direction that God is sending me in. And so, of course, that season was so necessary to get me where I am today. So I look back now on that time with so much gratitude. I'm so grateful for him, because had it not been for him and for the demise or the destruction of that relationship, I wouldn't be here. And so a lot of times as women, we spend so much time focused on the closed door that we don't even realize that there's so many other doors, and that you can shape a life that you feel good about if you give yourself permission to.
That's so good, girl. So many gems and all of that, The one I want to pick up on first, though, is the grateful for him. I definitely feel that the space of gratitude is one that allows for hope and love to reign. And so, fear can't reside in the same space as gratitude. And it is in that space of fear that you end up looking at the closed door, that you end up worrying about the things that you're going to lose because, I'm going to walk away from this relationship, I'm going to walk away from this man. You end up in the space of fear of, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to find anybody else? It's, can I have children? What's going to happen to me, et cetera, et cetera. I've wasted 5 years of my life, like that whole kind of thing.
And it was my 30s, let's be clear, 30 to 35, a prime time in a woman's life, right?
Yes. And by then I think I had, I was about to get pregnant with my third child by the time, girl. And interestingly enough, though, I was in the space of stepping into what you were experiencing. However, I was already married. And I already had the children. And so I don't want to say I wish I had discovered it earlier on. There are clues that you get, you see the inconsistencies, you see the lack of synergy, you see the misalignment. But because of that fear, whatever it is that creates it, I think a lot of us as young women, especially, worse now with social media, and you're seeing everybody getting married.
Relationship goals.
Oh my gosh, hashtag, right? Relationship goals. And there is this picture of what it should look like, and you want to be that girl experiencing the fairy tale. I mean, even me now, like I want to be that girl again. It's like you get drawn into that. And the truth is, what ends up happening is that we lose sight of what's important, which is ourselves, and choosing ourselves first, to make sure that when we are stepping into the dream, it's for us and not for anybody else,
Yes. Yeah. We have to be so, it's just such a very hard line, because I understand the societal pressures of you get married, you have children by this age, you tick these boxes. But when you get still enough and you get very clear on what matters to you, as at a friend's house yesterday, and I met this girl and she was just like, she doesn't want children. And her mom is an OBGYN. And I was just like, great. I love that more women are very vocal about that. She doesn't want children. She enjoys her life as if she wants a partner, and that's it. And so I said, and that's okay.
Yeah.
All of us could choose a different story. Or everybody, we don't have to bloom at the same time.
Same
And we
time.
all
Yeah.
have to have these lives that look exactly the same. So it's just like
Yeah.
you were about to have your third child,
Yes.
approaching 35. And
Yeah.
I want to think about being a mom. I'm now 40. And I'm like, okay,
Yes.
I want to be a mom. This is the season,
Yes.
right? And so it's like plants. We don't all bloom at the same time. And that's okay. That's
Yes.
okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you did talk about, and I'm happy that you mentioned it just now, about being a mom and weighing your options. Because I think even for me now, I took children completely off the table before, like right after my second child. I was like, I'm done. Right.
Yes.
And then here came number 3. And now I got 2 bonus, so it's like, okay.
Yes.
But now in a new relationship, it's like, do children come back on the table? Oh my gosh, I'm 46. It's like, what are the options? Oh, well, there are no options for you. Oh my gosh, it gets crazy, right?
Yeah.
I love that you actually examined options for yourself as you were going through your process, as you were looking at, what can I create for me in my next evolution of being a mom, being a wife, whatever that can look like. So you recently made a really brave decision that I completely admired. I love that you shared your story. And I actually read the article on it, and I follow you and all of this stuff, and we talk, but I would really love for you to share the decision that you made around motherhood and how you're feeling about the choice that you put into action in 2021.
Yeah. So, well, actually, no, it was 2020 October.
It was? Oh
Time is
my
flying.
God.
Time is just flying, girl. Time is flying. So,
wow.
yeah, one of my biggest fears when I was walking away from that relationship was, okay, will I be able to have kids? You hear about the ticking biological clock. You're 35. You don't have any eggs. Blah 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 blah. And so I decided, okay, listen, there's plan A and there's plan B and there's plan C, W, X, Y, Z. You just have to decide that you want to work every possible plan, which is what I did. And so in September, I believe, I remember going to my doctor's office, like 2019, my dermatologist actually, and she had just had a baby. And I asked her, I was just like, I don't want to pry. I knew she was a little bit, not a little bit, she was older than me. And I was just like, okay, I want to know more. And she said, ask me any questions. And so she asked me at the time, how old are you? I said, 38. She was like, Rochelle, you need to freeze your eggs. And I was like, okay, hold on, lady. She was just like, I froze my eggs at 40. She got 4 eggs. I know she had her son, Luca. I was just like, okay, tell me more. She was like, at minimum, I want you to do an AMH test, which is the test that determines your ovarian reserve levels. Pretty much, what is your egg capacity? Like, how many eggs is your body producing, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, as luck would have it, I left our office. I was like, I'm going to do the AMH test. Maybe like, I called my OBGYN within I think that day or the next day, and asked him to write the prescription for me to do the exam, to do the blood work. A week later, I ran into our friend and she's like, oh, I'm heading to Barbados to freeze my eggs. I'm like, oh, wait, tell me more. So it was like the universe just started conspiring. And so when I spoke to the fertility clinic, which is the only one I spoke to, because I'm somebody, I don't need a lot of information to make a decision.
You don't have to shortlist the 4 or 5.
No. My friend said it, Barbados. My friend is a CPA. She's super thorough. I was like, I don't need anything else. I knew I wanted to write about it. I could use it as a writing retreat. It was cheaper than doing it in America. Spoke to the clinic, felt complete alignment with their fertility specialist. And she made a point to me. She said, listen, based on your reserves, I know you will be able to get pregnant early, well into your early 40s. She said, however, if you want to have siblings, if you want your child to have siblings, you could use your frozen eggs, right? And I was like, well, ta-da, that was bingo for me. I'm the only child. I've never wanted siblings, but I did say if I have children, I would love to have 2. Right?
Yeah.
And so that was it. And so I just committed to the process. And I realized, I also am someone who learns from other people. I don't necessarily have to go through an experience myself to learn. And I noticed there were a couple of my friends who were older, approaching 45, 46, 47, and they were waiting on this magical unicorn, the man of their dreams, to be a mom, right? And then they missed the window. They didn't freeze the eggs, and now they're approaching menopause. And I was just like, I just don't want that to be my story. Right? I don't want that to be my story. So I was like, let me avail myself of the options available. I froze my eggs. Fortunately for me, I ended up getting 23 eggs. They retrieved 23, 19 were mature. And so I always try to set up when I speak in this kind of environment, because a lot of women think, oh, I'm 35. It doesn't even make sense for me to explore that option. I did mine at 39 years old, and I froze 19 healthy eggs. So do not let the statistics and the science and the articles and your friends or whoever deter you. Go and find out about your fertility for yourself. Empower yourself. So now when I date, it's funny because my doctor said this to me, my dermatologist. She said, when you're dating, you look young, you're going to meet younger guys. Most men are concerned about fertility because they want to have children. And if you have young energy, then it's great, right? All the guys I date, I tell them, they're like, what? You have 19 eggs? You can have 5 kids? I'm like, calm down. I am not having 5 kids. But yes. And so it's another way of giving yourself options, right? And so, I'm so happy that I did it. I'm approaching now 41. I am not married yet. I do want to have a partner to have children with, but I also, in the back of my mind, I have an age, a cutoff date where I will probably go ahead and be a mom by myself.
By yourself.
Yeah, because I really would love to be a mom. And listen, this is the thing about life. We expect it to go one way, Stacey. It needs to be so linear. What I've learned over these last couple of years is that life can be opposite to what your plan is, but it could still be magical and incredible. You know? And so I am here to say, like, if you know that there's certain things that you want to accomplish as a young woman, go and research and figure out your options. You do not have to just succumb to this plan A. Plan B is great. Plan C, D, W, whatever is great.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Plan Z, like, let's just, whatever the plan, we can work it.
Then you can reinvent yourself and design a life that you love. Nobody says you have to be the same person, and it's okay to change your mind. It is okay to change your mind. So many times women, we think, oh, well, I said this in 2019, so I just have to do it. No, you don't. You can change your mind today, change it 3 weeks from now, and just keep pivoting through the whole alphabet. It's your life. Yes,
no, that's good. And that's good for me to hear too, because I think I definitely tend towards attachments. Right. And so I get very attached to decisions that I've made or what I've shared, which is actually one of the reasons why I have to do social media fasts and get out, because social media actually affects me quite adversely. A lot of people don't know that, but I get really impacted by social media a lot. Like it literally creates all kinds of anxiety. And it's odd because in the marketing space, which I spend a lot of time, it's no problem. So if I'm working for a client's account or whatever else, then no big deal. But for me, it creates all kinds of, and I don't know how many different things I've coached myself around, et cetera. So I just now manage it differently, right? But that's what happens. I get attached to the constructs, because that's all it is, right? It's a construct. I get attached to the constructs. And so changing my mind, which I know I can do, I know I'm empowered to do, I've done it several times, is something that I struggle with, not because I'm afraid, but because I have attachments to the constructs that are created in our societal norms,
Yes. So, I'm so happy you said that, because let me tell you, that's going to liberate so many people, Stacey, to hear somebody who shows up like you admit that you do have a struggle around that. Because let me tell you, the social comparison, it is bogging people down with depression, that comparing your life that you're with yourself 24 hours a day to somebody somebody else's highlight reel. Doing us in as a society. So I'm so happy that you said that, and that you're managing it, that you know that it's not something that is necessarily works for you in a certain regard. So you know how to structure it to benefit yourself. Yeah, it's important. Absolutely. Because comparing your chapter 20 to somebody else's chapter 27, recipes for disaster.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. No, I love that. And it's gonna be kind of curious to see how you show up in the bliss question space, because you occur to me as so blissful. Like whenever I think about you, I just immediately feel happy.
Oh,
Because you're
yay!
just always beaming, even if there's stuff going on, you're just always beaming, which I think
Yeah.
is so refreshing, right? So let's talk a little bit about bliss. And the question I have for you is, what area of your life are you not so happy that you are actively working at creating more bliss in?
So currently, I would say in terms of my nutrition and my health, like not health, because I'm 100% healthy, but I have been neglecting to work out and eat as well as I know I should for my body. So the thing about it is I know what works, right? But there are certain times I just completely fall off the wagon and I'm like, oh, but you know better. So like these last couple of weeks, I've gained 8 pounds. But I'm not being hard on myself about it, because I was in Egypt and I was in Jamaica. So I was actually consuming food that I enjoy. But then I also know that I sometimes get very lazy around the whole workout, not pushing myself as I know I should. I made a commitment that I'm going to do 30 minutes on my Peloton 5 days a week. Some days I go on, I'm like, oh, I'll just do 15 minutes, I'll just do 20. So I need to recommit to myself, to really pushing myself beyond just the laziness and the stagnation that I've gotten into recently. So that's one area that I am going to show up. I used to run all the
Oh,
time,
yes, yes,
minimum
you used
three
to run.
miles.
I remember.
Fell off my running. And so I used to love to run. And when I run, I get really good ideas. And I realized
Right.
lately I just have not been as creative as I used to be. So now I need to implement the running. So mine is around fitness. I know how I thrive in that area. And so I am recommitting, girl. I am getting back outside. I'm going to run 2 times this week and just be just really disciplined, really. I
Yeah.
think exercise is such a good way of seeing measurable goals. And of course, the physical benefits, it increases your endorphins, your
Yeah.
oxytocin, your happiness hormones. It's
Yeah.
necessary. You look good, you feel good, but
Feel
more than
good.
anything, I know I want to live a long life. And so I owe it to myself to give myself the nutrients and the exercise that will ensure that I do. So that's one
Yeah.
area that I'm definitely like, get it together, girl, get it together.
Well, I
Yeah.
like how you also give yourself grace, right? Because the truth of the matter is, life is dynamic. And if you're
Yes.
living a dynamic life, you're going to be having these experiences. And that's
Facts.
what being blissful is all about. So, interestingly enough, you are honoring one area of bliss by making sure
Mhm.
that you have these. I mean, girl, Egypt is on my list of places to go
So
to.
good.
Like, I cannot wait.
Okay.
And so you were doing your Egypt thing, and then you're doing your Jamaica thing with your fam. And now you're like, okay, so now I'm gonna get back to my
Yeah.
regular routine, and that's okay too. So you
Refocus.
give yourself some grace and refocus that energy. Now
Yes.
tell us a little bit about Egypt. I want to know what was probably the most moving experience you had while you were there, or the most surprising thing, something that you didn't expect, anything that we think was just like highlight.
So you know what it is? So like I know I built up seeing the pyramids and the Sphinx in my mind. Like I'd seen it in history books forever and ever. So just seeing it up close, I was just like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I just
Yeah.
can't believe I'm here. Like I am in
Mhm.
Egypt looking on the pyramids that I've read about in history books forever. So it was just so surreal. I just kept saying, I just can't believe I'm here. Right? More than anything though, it just showed me the power of just the human brain and our bodies. Like they built those pyramids that are
I
standing
know.
now like over 4,000 years with
I
their
know.
hands. They had no machines. And so it just made me realize that there is literally nothing I can do.
Oh, that's good.
If I put my brain to it, like back in the day, people did not have the amount of resources that we did, and they were able to build structures that have lasted thousands and thousands of
Hmm.
years. And so it made me
Hmm.
think about legacy differently. That when you
That's
step
good.
out in this world, you can make impact. And you don't have to impact, you don't have to build a pyramid, but you don't know whose life that you can possibly change. And so while I was there, like as I was seeing the landscape, because we did it by boat at the Habia, it was beautiful. And so there were landscapes that I was just like, wow, how can people not believe in God? How can people not believe in how great thou art? Like there were that just kept blowing my mind. But more than anything, I really was just so taken aback by just human resilience, how resilient we are. Like we can work under dire conditions,
Yes.
even if it's
Desert.
not, or if it's against our will, right?
Yeah.
And we can produce incredible things. And I think that translates to anything that any of us try to do from here on forward, is that you can create something that lives beyond you and it can impact generations to come. But you just have to have the courage and you have to be brave.
Absolutely. No, I
Our
love what you said
ancestors
about
did it.
that.
We are so strong. Our ancestors did it. I
Yeah,
was just so
yeah.
proud, girl. I was like, listen, I can do anything at this point.
I actually think they maybe have been physically stronger than we are now,
Facts.
just based on the living circumstances and how they use their bodies. There's no
Yes.
cars, and
Yes.
you may have had horses and stuff, but
Creative,
they're just,
innovative.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the innovation
Yeah.
is mind-boggling. So
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. I actually have a meditation that I used to do that actually had you visualizing soaring over the pyramids, because
Oh,
it's so grand, and
yes.
so it was to put you in that mindset of anything is possible, you can do anything. And I've always, especially since then, just imagined myself standing in front of the pyramid. So, girl, I
Yeah.
can't wait. I can't wait.
Yep.
It's on the
I'll send you
list.
the itinerary, girl. It was incredible. Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, we are at the end of our time, and
Oh, you went
already.
by so fast. You have to bring me back.
For sure, for sure. I actually do, for season 4, I'm going to be doing lives whenever we launch an episode. So I'll definitely reach out to you when we're getting ready to do the
Nice.
launch series. But I always ask for one piece of advice or one thing that you pull on for yourself, whether it's a quote or a Bible verse or a practice that you have that works for you, that you would recommend for our audience. One thing.
Yeah. So my favorite Bible verse is Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And for me, that means everything, every single moment of every day is working in my favor. The good things, the not so good things, the bad things. And it gives me so much peace because I know in the grand scheme of things, God loves me so much that he will never give me anything that I can't bear, and that he will never do anything or give me anything that's not working for my good. I show up in this world and I'm like, okay, this delay for my good. Heartbreak for my good. The job promotion for my good. The friend who betrayed me for my good. For my good, for my good, for my good. And that's it. And the peace lies right in that space, is because everything is for my good. Yeah.
No, that's excellent. That is actually really powerful, and it reminds me of one of my favorite sayings from another teacher, Abraham Hicks. Everything is always working out for you. Everything is always working out for you, and I think it comes from that same root that everything works together for good. And I'm very clear about that. And I think where people struggle is when you're feeling the pain of a circumstance, it's difficult to see how in that moment it's for your good. However, ultimately you will see. And it's standing in that knowing that there is an ultimately coming right behind it,
Come on. I just got chills. That ultimately, that surrender, girl, that power.
Beautiful, beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rochelle, for joining us on the Balanced Lady Boss Show and for sharing all your joy and bliss with us in the Balanced Lady Boss community. I'm sure that there will be lots of awesome feedback, and I will definitely want to have you back on with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it. Perfect kickoff to this year.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Take care, everybody, on the Balanced Lady Boss Show. More to come.
Thank you so much for joining us for another epic of the Balanced Lady Boss Show.